Welcome to Super Power Punch. I'm your host, Hassan, with my co-host,
Vincent.
where we spotlight
Underappreciated
unknown,
and undeniably
awesome.
characters.
So on today's episode, of course, this is actually going to be on YouTube exclusively. This is not going to be our regular podcast format, but we have the wonderful, amazingly talented Rodney Barnes to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we're gonna actually talk about a few different things in the amazing career of Rodney Barnes. He's did several different projects, several different TV shows, series. You might know him from doing the Philadelphia series, from also executive producing the Boondocks, of course, as well as Wu-Tang's The American Saga, also as well several other different programs like My Wife and Kids, and also as well one of my personal favorites, Everybody Hates Chris.
First, I just want to say I am a gigantic fan of the Boondocks. Like that is like one of my all-time like favorite comedies. So I'm really excited to talk to you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I guess my first question for you would be, what was your favorite episode that you worked on for the Boondocks? Do you have a favorite episode?
I don't know. I think probably The Passion of Reverend Ruckus is a favorite. I guess the first one, The Garden Party, as well. I mean, we worked so hard to get the show made, that to actually see it come to life for the first time was kind of cool.
It's a classic, the first episode, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like I rewatched it this past like week. It still holds up. I rewatched the Boondocks Lock, but that first episode still holds up.
Cool. Thank you.
And one of my favorite episodes that you did, which I didn't even know. So doing the research, after I was like, oh my gosh, like I knew that you worked on it. And I've seen your name several times. It's hilarious because I'm like, you've worked on so many things I have consumed, and yet I'm always so focused on knowing who was behind the camera. So to have you on the show was crazy because one of my favorite episodes, Home Alone, is one of my favorites that you've done. And I just love the fact. I wanted to ask as well, how did you create that process of was it inspired by Macaulay Culkin's Home Alone? Because I feel like I get that vibe as well.
Maybe a little bit. I don't remember exactly in the writer's room how we come up with how many things. Some things I remember clearer than others, but I don't remember exactly what the motivation was. But certainly Home Alone played a role.
Also, what was your favorite character to work on this show for like episode wise?
Uncle Ruckus. I love working with Uncle Ruckus.
And then also, who was a character that you liked exploring? Or would it be the same answer? Would it be Uncle Ruckus for the show, like exploring his character?
Yeah, Uncle Ruckus for sure.
No.
Always fun to write the villain, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he was the character that was so far outside of the other characters, and sort of the hardest in some ways to make him part of the narrative. But in a lot of ways, that made it more fun.
Also, as well for My Wife and Kids. So, what was your favorite like episode, if you have one, of course, of just working on that show and just kind of overall?
Road Trip. It was the first episode I'd ever written of anything that I got a credit for, so that was a big deal and helped me get an agent. So I would say Road Trip would be my favorite.
Wow. Any funny experiences that you've had on set with the staff or any of like the crew members, anything?
Uh, Nothing that stands out. I mean, when you're in the comedy business, you're laughing every day. So every day there's something that happens that is funny. But nothing that jumps out that's, that I remember. That was 25 years ago. So yeah, I don't remember what happened yesterday. So, I'm sure there was something though. I'm sure there was something.
Yes. Also, any memories from Everybody Hates Chris as well, if you have any from that show as well. Doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, working with Chris Rock every day, becoming friends with him is also a big deal. So, saw him the other day. So it's always cool to be able to work with people who are incredibly talented and bring out the best in you.
Iron sharpens iron, as they would say.
Very much so.
Would you ever consider working on a season 5 for the Boondocks, or would you be done with the series completely?
I mean, it would have to be unique circumstances. I don't think you could just pick up where we left off. I think you would have to start something over again. And it's a different world, so I don't know if the Boondocks would actually apply in today's world. I mean, the comedy would, but I don't know if the the world at large being so corporatized and social media, whether or not you'd be able to have a Boondocks in the classic sense that from what we remember.
Also, as well, I saw that you also were a part of the crew on Blade as well.
Yeah.
Um, I do know. Is there anything interesting that you could tell us about that?
This is my first job in Hollywood as a Hollywood resident. And I was living in my car at the time. So, it was partly survival more so than anything else. But it was cool to be working with Wesley every day and seeing the karate and seeing the vampirism and all of the stuff that one day I would come to be able to work with. Great character, great movie, great experience.
All
I
right.
think the vampirism's a really good segue into the
Yes.
Blacula comic book that you worked on.
Yes.
Yeah, I've loved Blacula since I was a kid. And as I got older, I started to see some of the problematic elements of just them not having a high budget. And I love William Marshall, who played the character. And I always said that if I ever got the opportunity to rewrite Blacula in some shape, form, or fashion, I always thought of things that I would do differently. So when I got the literary rights to be able to do the character, I took a shot at it. It's my own company, Zombie Love Studios, and we put a book together. And hopefully that's a great homage to late great William Marshall and the character of Prince Mamuwalde altogether.
So to get into a little bit of that, I myself have had a love of Blacula since I was a kid, similarly to you as well. My mom, I have a funny story because it's so funny. I love that you've put just a little bit of just your experience of the character and your growing up. My mom, when I was probably around 10 or 12, she was like, I was into like Twilight. I was into like a lot of the all the other vampires and just like a lot of that. And she's like, well, you need to see one of the classic vampires. And for me, watching Blacula was a wonderful experience for me because it was the first time seeing myself in a character, and he was a vampire and he was multi-layered and he was also rich and he also, has this regal air about him. William Marshall definitely had such a presence about him that was very commanding of the screen. So I have always been wanting to see new Blacula content. And also just like, was that one of the passion projects that you initially knew already that you really wanted to work on?
I knew I wanted to do Blacula, and I knew that if I were to do it through another company, that's just one more hoop you'd have to jump through as far as rights are concerned, because it's me getting the rights, and now I have to get the rights and share it with another publishing company. So I always wanted to create an entity where I would be able to just think of something and do it without having to ask permission. Um, that's the good thing, freedom wise. The bad thing is you got to pay for everything. It's a very expensive endeavor. But that aside, it's an honor to be able to play in space with Prince Mama Walde. And in regards to Zombie Love Studios, whether it was comic books or film or television, just wanted to be able to have a space where I was able to do projects that were near and dear to my heart and not have to ask anyone for permission to do them.
Well, speaking of permission as well, I know you also worked on one of my favorite Marvel characters, just flip on the other side as well before we get into the Blackula spoiler content. Also, ladies and gentlemen, pick up Blackula. I really, spoiler alert, I do love the book. Like, it's amazing. It's literally one of my new favorite obsessions. So
Thank you.
definitely, you're welcome. So definitely go pick up the book, and I know it's available on Amazon. And then where else is it sold as well?
Your local comic shops.
Absolutely. Your local comic shops, and Amazon, and where books are sold. Let's get into Falcon now. I was not the biggest fan of the Falcon series that he did for Marvel. So I think was just as I reread it recently, I felt like it was just a darker take of Falcon. I thought it was a darker story. And I just envisioned Falcon being a lighter character. So I kind of wanted to ask you just overall, I found an appreciation for that interpretation. And I honestly think that I would like to ask, like, what was your mindset of creating the Falcon series in 2017, with Falcon kind of being a darker character and kind of dealing with a different
My
experience?
pitch, my pitch for Falcon when I pitched it to Marvel, the story that I wanted to do. It was my first comic book I'd ever written, so I can say the first three issues I had no idea what I was doing. But um, I I don't come from an era where it's sort of like when you say a character, he was darker than the way that you saw him. I think about characters like Batman, where you have the Batman who fights werewolves and vampires and that stuff. Then you have the Batman that fights the Joker, and then you have like there's like 30 different Batmans as far as who he is as a character. But a lot of times when it comes to other characters, they can only be one thing in the minds of some folks where, like, he's a soldier and that's what he does. And he fights alongside the Avengers and he just does a thing. But since he wasn't going to be Captain America anymore and he was kind of going to return to the streets, I wanted to give him a different type of tale and a different type of world to operate in, just to do something different. Because a lot of times, we have the same characters doing the same things generation after generation after generation, and they don't get an opportunity to breathe, especially the characters of color. So to be able to put him in a place where he was fighting a demon and fighting a vampire and fighting different things, I felt like, whether it worked or it didn't work, it was an attempt to take him into a different direction and maybe expand a dimension that we don't typically see with the character.
Wow.
Speaking of like things we don't normally see Falcon like deal with, like Blackheart is not the character that I think of when I think of Falcon. Like that is very far from who a character I think of when I associate Falcon. So was that a character that you really wanted to use? Because Blackheart's not like he's not a very I would say well-known character. So was that a personal character that you wanted to use, or was that like a Marvel suggestion?
No, it was more of the only thing that they said to me was, can you try not to do the same thing with him that everybody else does? So when I was going through the pantheon of Marvel villains, I was like, how can I find somebody that the least similar, the least, you expect him, Red Skull, just different folks that you would expect Falcon to go up against. But I was just trying to find something that was different and something that would push me as a writer to write in a way that wasn't familiar.
Wow. That's amazing because I honestly feel like overall, like it really is just something to see how you wrote the series as of recent. I feel like I was younger, I will say, when I read the series. It came out in 2017. I was like 16, I think, at the time. Or no, 18 at the time. That's 18. But it was so crazy because I'm just so used to him being in a certain light. But as I've grown old, it was like at first I didn't like it, but then I honestly saw the artistic ways, and I really love that you got to explain that. And now I kind of see your vision more and actually can appreciate it because I see, like you said, I don't think we do have enough unique stories with the characters we do have. So to take him there, I might not be mad at a reboot. Let me give it another stab or another bite for the vampire.
We will see. We will see.
So you were writing that Falcon series. That's right after Sam lost the title, like relinquished the title of Captain America. So you were like, this was Steve Rogers being Hydra. So you kind of had a mess to deal with. What was it like having to deal with like some of the Marvel weirdness while you're writing kind of your own series? Because I think you did a really good job dealing with like the current continuity when you wrote that book.
Yeah, I mean, I think they gave me some of the stuff around what was happening with Falcon at the time. So I had an idea of where they were going and what they wanted to do with the character, and that he wasn't going to be Captain America for a minute. So, like I said, it was just a matter of trying to find something that would be unique, that would be different, and just move away from the typical continuity, because you're going to have another 30 writers, and probably that already have. I haven't kept up with everything, but that are going to put him back into the position that he was in. He's going to be Captain America again at some point. He's going to be a soldier again. He's going to do the things that, for the most part, he's known for. So all I wanted to do was create my own little space, my own little world that still felt, like you said, connected to some of the things that were happening around him, but I didn't want to lean on those things for story.
I think you succeeded pretty well. I enjoyed the series because I remember I was reading that Captain America series. I'm a big fan of the writer Nick Spencer, and I was like, I'm not gonna Falcon's. He's going back to Falcon, and it's not Nick Spencer. I don't really care. And it's like Rodney Barnes is doing it. It's like Barnes is doing it. It's like, oh my gosh, like the Boondocks guy is doing Falcon. Okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. And I read that series like when it was coming out, and I definitely remember enjoying it. but it wasn't. I guess I was surprised. I mean, there's some comedy to it, but I guess I was surprised that it wasn't as funny as the Boondocks was.
Two different things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
I wish
very
I
much
could make.
so.
There's no Uncle Ruckus or none of those characters, or Huey or Riley and Falcon. So can't really make them a comedy. Couldn't really make them a comedy. It's more of an action adventure thing.
And
And
that's
I think that's kind of smart though, is like some writers who have this background of, I'm a comedy writer, so I'm just gonna like instead of taking Falcon and turning it into a comedy, like Sam's not a character is like really making like all those kind of jokes and stuff. So I think that was, I think it not being, because you still had some jokes here and there in the series, but it not
Mm-hmm.
being just as comedic as some other stuff that you've worked on, I think that it shows like an appreciation for like the character and the world that you're working in, and as opposed to trying to impose your will on the work itself.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Thank
think I was gonna say the addition of Patriot as well was really nice. I did love Patriot as a character, so I was gonna ask you as well. Was there any inspiration to add him in the series as well? If you could give us some behind the scenes detail to you about that.
No, they just asked me to use him. They just
Oh,
asked me to include him as Sam's sidekick. So that was it. There was no real. Wasn't like with Blackheart. It was really just about they told me to use them, so I used them.
And if Marvel let you write another character, is there anyone that you're dying to get your teeth into? Would it be Blade, perhaps?
I mean, I'm kind of happy with what they're giving me now with the Star Wars stuff, and I did Luke Cage, and I'm kind of if Blade comes, he comes, but I think there's some fine folks doing Blade right now. So um, if he comes, he comes. It would be nice before everything is said and done to be able to do a mini series or something with Blade.
I missed that you did start. What Star Wars books are you working on?
I've done all the adaptations for the TV shows. I've done the Inquisitors, IG-88, Lando Double or Nothing, and a couple of other indie one shots along the way for Star Wars. So about 10 series.
Wow, I missed that. That's really cool.
yes, that's
Thanks.
amazing. Also, as well, so to also switch gears, speaking of a lot of vampires, this is now officially the spoiler section of of course, the interview of Blacula. So we're going to get into the Blacula of it all. So now, all right, so listeners, if you have not seen Blacula, the first movie, or Scream Blacula Scream, or read the book, you can come back. Don't leave too much. Just, leave, come back, buy the book on Amazon. Get it, come back, and then and then listen to the rest of the spoiler talk. Overall, I want to get into what is a character that you would say brings the superpower punch? Does this? I feel like let's start off with that. Which, if you don't know about our show is very underappreciated, unknown, underrepresented, underappreciated. A character that has power, a character that is next level, but is definitely a character that hasn't been explored just yet. And I think I would love to hear what character you think. I've definitely fallen in love with a lot of the characters reading the series. I love Cross. I really think that he was a great addition. But I want to definitely know what you would say. What do you think?
Are you
What's the
saying
character?
within the Blackula world or
Oh,
something else
oh, then the Blacula world, and
other
just
than the Blackula world?
no, 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 in the Blacula world.
In the Blackula world,
Mhm.
I mean, they're all new. A lot of the younger characters are new, so none of them have really gotten any love per se, other than that one book. I mean, there's a character. I think her name is Nina, the one that starts off and starts a thing with Cross.
Mhm.
Love to see her get a little bit more love. Um,
Mhm.
her to have adventures outside of Blackula would be cool.
Mhm.
But yeah, that would be the first one.
Okay. I definitely loved her character as well. I love Nina's character. I thought she was definitely nice. Um, and also too, was it any inspiration making her like a journalist, like a videographer, like her not journal, well, she was journaling, but just like utilizing like taking footage and investigating everything. Was it any inspiration for her character when you were creating her? Was she like based on anybody or anything that was very interesting to you?
No, I just needed a character that was a blogger. I just needed a reason for her to come to Watts and look for Blacula. In a sense.
That's something. Is there any characters you would like to explore in the Blacula series other than her? Um, from the, I should say, in the actual overarching, I would say even past the book, even in the movies that you would like to maybe bring back, maybe a character that might have died from the movies, or
Blacula himself. I mean, I would love to be able to. He only had two movies in my book. I would love to be able to go further and see what he was like as an actual prince in Africa. I would love to see what happened between the two movies. I'd love to see what happens in the future with him.
yeah. Also, as well, I do know that you did you introduced Dracula, which was very, I feel like as a fan of the original, it was so interesting to see that you brought him back to really kind of um I guess not come have a full circle moment with the movie. I think like having the movie and having it be um a full circle moment. Was there any intention of a specific reason why you used Dracula?
I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was someone who he would want revenge on. I thought it was a good story.
Mhm. And also, Vincent just watched a little bit of the movie as well, and he thought that the scene with Dracula was really interesting. Vincent, if you could give some detail on that.
Yeah, I only saw the movie. I didn't get a chance to read the book, unfortunately. But I was surprised, I guess, kind of how dark like Blacula's fate was at the beginning of the movie. Like to even turn him into Blacula, I was like that's really because Dracula basically he turns Blacula into Blacula, and it was he's supposed to just be stuck in a coffin for like the rest of eternity, but he's a vampire, so he's supposed to be starving in a coffin for like ever, and that's like that's supposed to be his fate. That's like really messed up. And his wife's supposed to just watch over him as he had like for her entire life too. Like yeah, that was really messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Vampires can be rough, so I'm glad that
Yeah.
they took it seriously when they put it all together.
Also, as well, I also love Scream Blacula's Scream. There's a character, is it Richard Lawson? I think, is it Richard Lawson? He played,
He's in the movie.
that's what I was gonna say. I think that's always try to remember everyone's name, but I just don't want to make sure that's the right person. But but Richard Lawson played the person who brought Blackula back to life.
Hmm.
And I thought, was there any way possible that his character might enter the book realm, maybe for a nice sequel, maybe to do a little brother voodoo magic, maybe?
If I do that story, perhaps my continuity is more modern day, so um, uh, if I go back, well, there's a possibility.
Okay. I'm starved for more magical characters.
Mm.
I love a good magical character. I love Scarlet Witch. I love Agatha Harkness. I love Brother Voodoo. I love a lot of the magical side of the MCU and Marvel characters. So I think like having other media and different other interpretations we've seen, and Richard Lawson being in the movie, bringing Black Widow back to life, I thought was an amazing scene. So I thought it would be nice to kind of pick your brain a little bit and be like, are we having any interesting magical characters on the horizon?
Again, if I've only had Blacula for one story so far, so right now the focus is him.
Yeah.
So if I can sort of fill out his world a little bit, it might buy me real estate to add some of the other characters. And then you got rights involved and all those other things from the movies. I can't just put them in to put them in. I gotta MGM has to approve everything that I do.
Mhm. Also, as well, one addition I did enjoy, especially because it was hilarious as a kid when I was 13 or 12. No, when did that come out? Yeah, so I was around, okay. Yeah, so 12. But when I was 12 watching the movie, The Taxi Driver,
Hmm.
I loved reading the book and finding out that Cross, his grandma, is the taxi driver from the original Blacula movie. Like I screamed at the top of my lungs. I was like, "What? No, not did you put her in there?" I loved it. I was smiling ear to ear. Like, I was like, this is literally the best thing because it's like you paid homage to one of the most iconic scenes that I loved as a kid because it was like as intense as it was also funny to look at now. So I want to know if there was any intention. Was that one of the interesting things that you already knew going in? Like you would introduce a character, or was it just kind of like, I'll just kind of throw her
No, I thought about it, and I thought it would be a really good idea.
in?
You seem to have like a lot of intentionality with your decisions. These don't seem arbitrary.
No, it's usually when when you're dealing with other people's characters and other people's world, you don't really it can't really be arbitrary. It's a lot of folks. It's a lot going into this. It's a lot on the line. So with anything that you care about, hopefully there's a lot of intentionality.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of people in Hollywood who are not doing a lot of stuff intentionally. So I appreciate that.
No, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I definitely think overall though as a series, it definitely it's literally like I said, one of my new favorite things. I really do, as my co-host was said, your intention with everything. Like, I could tell you literally are a fan of this because growing up, I was that kid that loved horror movies and loved Candyman and loved Chucky. Like I literally wanted Chucky to be my best friend. Like it was, it's like I was an interesting kid, but I think that just having Blacula add to that, he was one of those characters I did flock to, and it's so just great to see you have that love and appreciation and care for him. It was just it made me smile so much and really enjoy the series and really like you love this character just as much as me, and it's like I would just love and can't wait because I definitely feel like you will eventually just continue to do amazing work with the character. Like I trust you, like I trust like I feel like a lot of people know, like I love Black Panther's Reginald Hudlin series. I love Reginald Hudlin. And I love his Black Panther series that he did for Marvel. I think that's literally the best Black Panther run, I feel like, out of all of his runs. And I feel like with Blacula, like that's like I feel like Black Panther is his character. I feel like your character is Blacula. Like I just feel like you're like like I just like that association, that symbioticness. Like, and I know Vincent probably knows other writers as well, but like I feel like that symbiotic relationship of the two is just magical.
Yeah, yeah. I can see where when you love a thing, you put all that you have into it. So I'm glad that that's coming across.
Yes. Also, your series Philadelphia as well. I definitely want to speak on that as well. What made you also want to create that series as well? Yeah.
I had the idea. I've been working on the idea for years and got an opportunity to put it together in image.
Oh.
And do you prefer working on more indie stuff, or do you like having, I guess, the more corporate, like Marvel stuff behind you?
50-50. There's some books that I work within the system. My latest Batman book was fun to write. And then other times, you have a story that you think you really don't want any editorial interference. You just want to be able to write it the way that you want to write it. So, um, it's according to what the subject is, what the story is I'm trying to tell.
Um, yes, well, I am loving all of the content. I'm not just saying that. I genuinely feel like Blacula. I read a little bit of Philadelphia. My mom definitely actually picked up your Philadelphia book as well. She loves Philadelphia, so
Thank you.
definitely you're welcome. But yeah, so it's definitely your content is just really amazing, and to kind of see, I love really like looking at your writing from that perspective, and that's why I reread Falcon and then found that appreciation because it was really like it's a darker take, but I think, like you said, I think it's a realistic take, but it also has its elements of having its horror elements and also taking someone out of their comfort zone. And I liked how you also wrote with Blacula, taking Blacula out of his comfort zone. I think showing him having guilt as well, and crying. I love that scene when you wrote Blacula crying. I thought that was really powerful, and it evokes so much emotion. It evokes so much depth to his character that I think the movies even, you elevated that times 10. And I would love to know just, was that an intention as well? Just showing emotion and showing depth in a black man. Also, you have to kind of talk on that, but just overall with Blacula being, having kind of a guilt in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an intention. Anytime I write a story, that anything that happens that you see, there was an intention for that thing to happen first. And the second is, yeah, I mean, I would love to have, I love for characters that I write to have fully formed dimensions. Just because you're a vampire doesn't mean that you just want blood, that there's other stuff going on too. And again, these homages are always done with love and appreciation. So you're trying to do the most that you can possibly do with a character.
So, with that being said, is there any upcoming Blacula 2 that you could give us some details?
I'm working on a second volume. I still have to, with every time that I go out to make something, I got to go to MGM and make sure good things are good over there. But I'm trying to do another series of stories with him, and hopefully good things happen. I had him in Philadelphia for a hot second. He was in issue 35 and 34. But always trying to expand the character and elevate the character. I think he's got as much life in him as Dracula, and we'd love to see more stories with him in there.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Dracula is honestly not as good as Blacula. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, I just see he's not as good. I think he's overhyped. I mean, if we're gonna talk about an ancient vampire, we should talk about Blacula. I mean, that is me. That is, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know about y'all, but I think Blacula is solid to Dracula. Is there any potential possibility that you would love to work on any other series? Like nothing, I guess, not in the Blackout space, but just overall in general, anything that you would like to work on recently that you could give us as well, just that's up and coming.
I mean, I've got 4 or 5 books in development right now that I'm doing, so I want to work on all of those. I can't really talk about them because they haven't been announced yet. But yeah, I plan to be writing comics hopefully for the years to come.
You have like a dream project that this like a character where if so, like they were like, Mr. Barnes, we want you to write this character. You're the guy for the job. Like, what would that character be besides Blacula, perhaps?
The Batman story that I just wrote and some of the upcoming stuff that I'm doing. Most of the things I've wanted to do, I'm in process of doing.
That's a good place to be in life.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I'm a gigantic Batman fan. He's like my favorite superhero. So, and I also just think that because I've read a lot of Batman comic books, there really aren't like, really aren't black people writing Batman. Just like just regular like Batman. I think that's like I'm really happy to see that like there's potential for that.
Yeah, I appreciate DC for giving me a shot.
Add some Catwoman. Add some Catwoman. That's me.
I can do.
Literally. So if you don't know, I literally love Catwoman. That's my Vincent knows. We did a first heroes growing up. That was Halle Berry's Catwoman was my first black superhero outside of Falcon and the Marvel side of stuff. But on DC side, it was Halle Berry's Catwoman. So she is literally a superhero to me, and nobody else could turn me against her. So, so anything Catwoman. I love all the Catwoman. There's the Kid, Zoe Kravitz, Michelle Pfeiffer, Anne Hathaway. I love them all, but yeah, Halle Berry is my favorite, but also just any Catwoman, and especially done with your amazing dark writing. Oh yes, yes, yes. I need that in my life. I would love to know just overall, um, what would you like one of your things? I feel like not for just your legacy, but I feel like overall, what would be one thing that you feel that like is something that you really want to do and kind of bring your own superpower punch to the world and your creative arts, of course, just in movies, TV, and books space.
Again, everything that I want to do, I'm kind of doing at one stage or another. There's no real like fantasy thing out there. I try to, if there's something in the back of my mind I want to do, I just try to go and do it. I don't really hope that one day I can do it. I just go after it. And it might not work out. It may not come to be, but I always take a shot.
Mm.
Do or do not, there is no try.
That's true.
Mhm. I agree.
Very true. So as we wind down the Blacula section, what
Yeah.
would be characters you would say that gives you that inspiration, that inspire you?
Um, Literally, I mean, when I was your age or younger, there are thousands of characters. There's no just one. I wish there were just one, but just so many different characters across the board. I've loved different runs of characters: Daredevil, Batman, Superman, Teen Titans. I mean, there Avengers. There've been so many runs of different things that I've loved and have made me want to do what I do. So as far as comics are concerned, but no one that stands out above another.
Wow. Any also as well, any real life people that you would say inspire you?
Again, way too many to mention. I'd say personally my grandmother, but there are far too many writers and just folks that have come before me that from all walks of life that sort of set a great example for me to follow in life, but not just one that stands out. That would be an insult to the other ones.
Yeah, that's very true. It's hard. I feel like it's like the Grammy speech or the Oscar speech. It's like you name one, you have to name them all, and it's a short time, so it's like you have to crunch and be like, and this person, this person, this person, this person, and you have to thank them all. And it is you don't want to leave anybody out. So respectfully, I understand that absolutely. So this was an amazing episode with the amazingly talented, the amazing Rodney Barnes. And yeah, this is Superpower Punch. Of course, I'm Tossing, your host. And of course,
Vincent, your co-host. I'm gonna go read the Rodney Barnes Batman because I didn't know this existed. No,
Just
you
go on
didn't.
Instagram. Just
yeah,
go on Instagram. It came out Wednesday, so they don't update it that quickly.
That's fair.
yes,
It was a blast. I'm really this is an episode I'm really happy people get to see.
yes, literally.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you giving me some time.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you.